We're looking at a lesson from Chapter 4 in Math 1103, and it deals with our mini lesson 4.2. Now, we are to solve these through the process of substitution, and that's what our class will be today. But I wanted to give you a little thumbs up on a technique that may be useful for checking your work. Now, we know that a graphing calculator can be used for graphing, but it can also be used often to solve systems of linear equations in these two variables, which is what we're doing. So with that in mind, let's take a look at what we have here. Now, here is a typical example in section 2, which is 1c. And we see that the first equation is in standard form, and the second equation is in standard form. Well, a way to do this is to put these equations that are in standard form into what is called a matrix. And what a matrix does is it takes the numerical coefficient of the terms. Here for our x, there's a 1. For our y, there's a 6. And for the constant, it's just 2. And then the next row, this would be a 4, a 5, and a negative 11. So we've put it into what is called a matrix. Now, in a TI-84, there is a key that's called the matrix key, and in one viewing you may not pick all of this out, but let me show you how it works. We turn the calculator on, and we go to our second function key and hit matrix, which is the second function. We then use the arrow button to go over to the third column, which is the edit column, and we then hit enter. Now, matrices are set up by rows and columns. So this one is how many rows? 2. How many columns? 3. A 2 by 3 matrix. Now, I have it set up already as a 2 by 3 matrix, but if we had to edit it, we would just put in a 2, enter, a 3, enter, and then it takes us into the matrix below. Now we're going to put in our first line values, first row, which is a 1, a 6, and a 2. So a 1, a 6, and a 2. That brings us down to our second row, and here we're going to put a 4, a 5, and a negative 11. So 4, 5. Now, when we put in a negative value, we have to use the negative sign here, not the subtraction. So a negative 11. Enter. Now we have the matrix in. To put it into the system, we hit second function and quit. That puts that into that particular slot. Then we do second function matrix again, and now we're going to go over to the second math column, and then we use the up arrow to get to our B. We then put enter. We then use the second function matrix again, and we hit 1, and now it's asking us to put a parenthesis on our value for this set of equations, which we're calling A. We put a parenthesis there, and now all we have to do is hit enter. When we do that, we get a new matrix readout that looks like this. Now, what does this stand for? Well, remember this was your x value. We're saying x equals -4. And this one was your y value, 1, or y equals 1. So the ordered pair solution of intersection of these two equations is the ordered pair -4, 1. And if we look at our book too, we'll be doing that by substitution. It is -4, 1. And in our video, we'll show you the substitution method. Here, for those of you that have this calculator, you can use this as a check. Remember, you need to show your work on how you arrived at this through substitution, but this is a way to check your work using matrix. Now, a couple of other things. Some of you have studied actually matrix before. We have here the major diagonal, and in order for this to be a true reading, your major diagonal, which is what I've outlined in red here, needs to be a 1. The other values are 0. So therefore, it is a good answer. Sometimes you'll find you don't get this. If you don't get this readout, then you might get a situation where through substitution it would have been 3 equals 5, which is not true. This is no solution. Or you might have got 5 equals 5. These are the infinite number of solutions because they would be the same line. Okay, we'll wrap this up.